Hello, welcome back to another Friday Love, Learn, and Leadership live show. And really looking forward to today's episode. We got a chance to, this is number 3 in our series where we're meeting with building level leaders from across the state and having them share out some of the things that they've had a chance to invest in over the course of the week. And we've got a great group of educators here in the room. I'm also joined by Brooke Cavan of ESU 7, who I'm going to put on the spot right away, right from the top, and ask if she would do introductions of both Danny Beerbaum and Tammy Carlson, who are principals within the ESU 7 region. So, Brooke, welcome to the Love, Learn, and Leadership Show.
Thank you. I love being on the show. So I get to introduce 2 of my favorite people. We have 2 ESU 7 principals on the line today. We have Danny Beerbaum, who's the elementary principal at Bellwood Elementary in David City Public Schools. And we have Tammy Carlson, who's not only the elementary principal, but also the SPED director at Fullerton Public Schools. And I am so excited to brag on these girls. Listen, everyone, I get to see these 2 every month, and sometimes more than that. Danny won School's Principal of the Year Award in 2019-20, and then handed the crown over to Tammy Carlson in 2021. These 2 are fabulous. They've been on the podcast before talking about school culture and how to build school culture. And in times like these, I love when I run into their staff members in real life and hear things like, oh my gosh, Brooke, Tammy is amazing. Like, all I have to do is teach. She takes care of everything else. She takes care of me. She takes care of all of our processes. And all I have to do is teach. And then I go run into staff members at the football game. And he said, I know principals don't usually make everyone happy, but somehow Danny does it. And our staff would run through a brick.
I'm going to say probably a brick wall for Danny, and I would not be surprised to hear that either. And I know that Brooke's had some connectivity issues a little bit. She's out being busy and working hard, boots on the ground today. And I wasn't planning on doing this, but since you brought up the podcast, then we do have a podcast, which one of the past episodes was with Danny and Tammy. I've also roped them into some Future Ready Conference live room chats, and just I so appreciate their input and insights. That certainly had to ask them back in this format. And so thanks for joining us today. And I think we should probably just dive right into it and talk a little bit about our loves from this week. So Danny, would you start us off, kind of share, whether it's personally or professionally, something that you loved over the course of the past 5 days?
Sure. Yeah, there's lots of things. I write a weekly report for my superintendent. And the one thing that came to mind when I thought about my week was we got to start our week with a PD day, which sometimes is extremely stressful as an administrator and extremely stressful as teachers, because they're like, what else are you going to throw at me? But we strategically placed this PD day and had Tina Bogren from Marzano Resources out. And she spent the day with us in the morning with all of our certified staff, talking about self-care. And then in the afternoon, spent time with our first and second year and some third year teachers, talking really about self-care and how you manage that with a stressful job, and connecting and finding that balance between personal and professional. So that was definitely started my week out great. And what was even more, made me love it even more, was not only did she fill my bucket, I had multiple teachers say that was probably the best PD they'd received in a long time, which really makes me think like, crap, I need to rethink about our PD schedule, because maybe we're missing the boat here. But she's just phenomenal, and it couldn't have come at a better time. Like, our teachers are still exhausted. They're still tired from COVID and everything that's happening. But it was, I don't know if you guys follow her or read anything that she does, but if you don't, you should, because she has some great ideas to keep you grounded, to help you take care of yourself. And she's fantastic. So that was my love. It started the week out great and just kept going from there.
Well, no surprise, because this happens often on the show, is that we love learning, right? And so you love the opportunity to have the professional development, those coming in. And I'm going to ask, I guess, was there a strategy or a particular self-care takeaway that you that kind of stuck out to you, that maybe is something you would be willing to share in this format?
There were several. Oh my gosh, I took a bunch away. But the one thing that I think she did a good job of reminding like some of our veteran staff is it's okay for you to laugh. Like find those moments where you can just belly laugh. Like, you get in this routine and you have to get everything covered. You're trying to teach lessons, but it's okay to take a moment to laugh with your kids. And so I actually started with grade level meetings yesterday, and I usually start with celebrations, but I started with tell me a funny story that's happened to you. Could be something personal, could be something at school. And we giggled a lot, and it made our agenda feel less heavy, because it's pretty heavy when you're in grade level meetings talking about data and kids. And so that really helped us set the tone. And so just don't forget to laugh, like find those moments, let it happen, and then keep moving on from there.
Oh, I absolutely love that. Makes me think, I've not been to a comedy show in a long time too. I love those. I like laugh till my stomach hurts. I can't breathe anymore. It's like, I don't know, therapy almost. So I'm gonna have to look into that. That's a great reminder that we need to make sure we make time for that. And great idea to share that out in a meeting too. So Tammy, what was your love from this past week?
So I think my love was something that I think we took for granted a few years ago, and it was just the fact of getting kids out on field trips. And so for the first time we usually take our field trips in the spring. So we went that 2 years ago in the spring. Of those kids didn't get the field trips. And then last year we really shut down as far as some of that involvement, and they didn't get it then. So my, first, second graders hadn't had that experience along with those kindergartners. So my love for this week was watching those kindergartners, the fifth graders went on a trip, get on that bus and take off and have a little bit of sense of normalcy of, we all look forward to field trips. That's something that's kind of a highlight for a year in their growth and learning. And so much can be learned outside the classroom than just what happens inside. And so I think my biggest love was, celebrating with those kids and the staff when they got to get on that bus and head out and, experience that and have that sense of normalcy that they're all wanting. And teachers, they were excited for it. So I think my love is just some of the things that we no longer take for granted. We are excited each day when we can come and share in some certain things that, were things we always got before.
Yeah. Where were one of those field trips? Where did they go?
So our kindergarten went to the pumpkin patch, which is always a huge, exciting thing. And then our fifth graders went to the Edgerton Center and Museum there. So it's funny because a lot of our field trips typically are spring, but teachers are so anxious to get on them, and they really don't want to lose that opportunity that I think almost all my classrooms are taking fall field trips just to get out there and be able to do it. So it's a total different social piece that those kids need and be able to experience. So that was definitely a love. And I teach a leadership class. So just being able to have that back this year, being a little more normal and talking to the kids about some things that we're going to do out in the community and go out and do. It's with sixth graders. And so, for 2 years, we haven't gotten to go out and do things at the nursing home and the assistive care and things like that. So, it's kind of a whole new sense of feeling when you get to do some of that stuff.
Oh, that's incredible. And that just really, that makes me smile. Like to get back to even Danny's, really, to think about just the joy that those kiddos and the teachers with them are experiencing by being able to be invested in that, and love that leadership academy idea, or that class that you were referencing there too with your sixth graders, as I'm sure that's really beneficial for them to have those experiences, those conversations, and then it sounds like enact some of that out in the community, which is really cool.
Absolutely.
Brooke, what's your love from this past week?
Oh my gosh, right now. Can I have 5 of them? Right now is one of them. We had principals in our building for our first principal cluster of the year. And at ESU 7, we have 11 principals that are new to their role in their district. And 7 of those 11 have never been a principal before. And so we are crafting some really specific supports for them. And one of the supports we wanted actually came from the brain of Danny Beerbaum, who said, have we ever thought about doing something mentoring related? And so for the very first principal cluster, we asked some expert principals, one of which was Tammy Carlson, and we said, can you just come and meet with our brand new newbies and just talk? We've got a few points that they have said they want to talk about. And every single experienced principal that we asked to come be a support and be a mentor said yes. And every single brand new principal that we said, we would like to support you, would you like to come, said yes. And that was a sight to see. It was just incredible seeing principals supporting principals. That was awesome.
Gosh, I love that. This is this is just that, like, yeah, culture of leadership that it happens within a building, but then I love hearing about that happening in a region, within an ESU, in an area, and really across the state. That, like, if we can hold each other up, especially during these times that have been so trying the last like 2 years, it feels like it's just so important. And with 7, I can't imagine stepping in as a new to the profession principal with all of the demands of the present moment and having to kind of navigate being new and all of those things at the same time. So great to have those supports, and awesome to see the ESUs are making those connections. I'll be brief with mine and just say that mine was a personal one this week. Tuesday, was it Tuesday night? See, this week has been like long days and a fast week. Do you ever have those? Like, oh my gosh, you just grinding through each and every day, and then obviously you look up it's Friday. But I think it was Tuesday night that we got a chance to go to the pumpkin patch and pick out our pumpkins that sit on our stoop until we're going to carve them later. But it was just a real nice time to go out and walk out in the field. It was the first real nice day where we got a chance to just really kind of enjoy that fall weather sweeping in. And it was a real joy. It really was to spend that time with my kiddos and get outside for an evening. So that was my love. Also excited to hear about everybody's learn. And so we'll go back around the horn here and start with Danny. Danny, what's something that you learned over the course of this week?
Okay, so in conjunction with our PD day, we also split our staff into some professional learning community groups, and I get to help a teacher with extending our teacher mentor program. We have a very rigorous first year program. However, we were finding that our second year teachers and even our third year teachers needed some additional support. But it wasn't until that meeting with 11 individuals that I really realized that maybe we've been missing the boat the last 6 years we've had our mentor program. And so several of our comments and our conversations centered around first year teachers and what we want them to do and what we expect them to do is maybe completely, on the right word, like at a disadvantage for them because we're asking so much and they're new and they're trying to do it all. And so we kind of took some things from that as an admin team and have done some rearranging of Marzano and making sure they're only getting what they absolutely need the first year in Marzano and then extending it to maybe in the second year, we dig a little bit deeper. In the third year, we dig a little bit deeper. But it wasn't until those teachers really said, and these teachers in this group are either current mentors or have been a mentor in our district, that really said some of our first year teachers are overwhelmed with the amount of things. So what can we pull back and what can we put in the second year mentor program and the third year mentor program that will kind of eliminate some stress that they have. So I really learned that even though you have a system in place or something that you think a program to support, you need to reevaluate that frequently, more so than just we give a survey out to these teachers every year at the end of their first year and they give us good feedback, but never did we think the feedback we were getting was maybe missing what we had in place. So I'm super excited to learn more about how we can support our teachers in our district at the level of their second year and then their third year, as opposed to just 1 year. So in an interview, when teachers asked, do you have a mentor program? We're like, yeah, it's great. But then we now can say, yeah, it's amazing because it's not only going to support you your first year, we're going to put something in place to support you your second and your third year. So I'm really excited about that. And that learn came from a bunch of teachers who were very strong opinion about we're doing way too much in 1 year and we need to push it out over a course of time to help our new teachers. So big aha for me.
That's and again, so important, supporting teachers like through all of this and the stressors of entering into the profession at that level during this time has got to just been overwhelming. So great to get that feedback and maybe refine that scope and sequence a little bit of the information that gets rolled out to them. Tammy, what was your learn from this week?
Well, I'm glad Danny just talked because now I just learned something else. So love it. See, Danny and I work well together because we just teach each other all the time. But my learn kind of stemmed from our year startup, but then I'm going to kind of capitalize it with something that Danny said. We are typically a very veteran staff. We have not hired teachers in the elementary for it's sparingly that we ever have to do that. And I have 3 brand new teachers to the district this year and 1 that changed positions this year. So my learn for this week has just been working with them through preparing for parent teachers conferences and end of the grade reporting things, and just how those new teachers, we have to step back, we have to reflect on our district processes, on the things that we're asking them to do. We have to be more diligent in our thinking on how we are communicating those things to them. So it's been a real learning thing for me, especially this week with so many major things hitting our calendar. But just remembering that going forward, that they bring such a new perspective that we also need to validate that with them. And there's certain things that they bring to the table that maybe as a district we can all learn from. And so kind of reshaping our thinking process here as some of those new teachers get acclimated into the district. But thinking what Danny said, it makes me think about, okay, that's this year, but then what is year 2 and 3 going to look like? Because you don't think past that. You're getting through the day to day. And so I think I'll be picking Danny's brain a little bit on those things of that year 2 and 3 and some of the struggles that can happen. But I know Brooke brought up the principal cluster, and that all was right along with that. So just the rejuvenation of new people. We were there to help support them, but I feel like they almost supported us in reverse because of the excitement, just to see their go behind them, their purpose. And so it kind of makes us step back, think, and be ready to approach the day-to-day just a little bit different, with a little bit more excitement and pep in the step and take on those things. So that's been my biggest thing. And this week just hit big with parent teachers conferences, midterms, all those things that my teachers have just done. It's happened so naturally. And so now I have to really think about, okay, what are the steps they need to follow through? So it's good having them in.
Well, and wow, did we get to the midterm so quickly? It feels like school just started not too long ago, and to already be thinking about that in parent teacher conferences as being here is just crazy. And, as those new to the principalship leaders, step in, I'm sure it's great to make good connections with them from the start too, because they're going to bring a different lens that maybe will, lead to new ideas. And I always think innovation comes from when you have people that carry some backpack of experiences into a context they've never been in before. And so hopefully by at least making space for those conversations to happen, you can kind of glean different ideas from one another. I find this conversation to be energizing each and every week, and ideas share here too. So I'm right with you on that, Tammy. And it looks like we may have lost Brooke for the time being, but I will say, in the vein of talking and in support of new teachers, I was not planning on talking about the podcast at all. But the podcast, we did a recent episode with 2 amazing educators from ESU 9 who lead a kind of region wide there for their ESU new teacher training. And that podcast was so much fun. They shared some really foundational ideas for new teachers and also those that support them. They did a rap song in the middle of the podcast, which is our first performance of that nature on the show. And but it was one that they do live for those teachers to just sort of talk about how breaking norms is something that really can, capture an audience and keep them captivated and keep their interest. And so I would point you to that, I guess, just as a follow-up. And my learn this week is from some of those same individuals. And so I'm going to just name Kristen Selecta, Amy Schultz, Nick Ziegler in addition there, and then also Diana Steinbrink of ESU 10. Those 4 ESU colleagues of mine have really been invested this week on helping us get ready to launch our PD for Me initiative, which has been something that's been kind of brewing since the spring, and we'll mail out at the end of next week, where what we're going to do, or what we have done, is created put 5 topics together for October, November, December. And teachers can go on this little survey and pick which topics they would like to receive a little one-page mailer on. And so we're going to send that out to their homes with like stickers and like coffee or tea, and you get to kind of personalize what you want to get in your little envelope. And then when you receive that, it has a bunch of like QR codes and links and just information on the topic that you were interested in. And on the back of it, there's times for you to connect over lunch if you choose and be available to do this through Zoom with other people across Nebraska who might be interested in the same topic. And so there's some like guiding questions for those conversations. And we're really just trying to do something. It's free. It doesn't cost anybody anything. And it's more so just to try to find those niche topics. I mean, some of those are like virtual reality and virtual field trips, not something you would probably receive a whole staff professional development on. That's been my learn from this week is that as they've created all of these different resources, I'm finding myself going through and like, what is this? And tell me more about that. I'm watching these videos and it's been really fun to kind of go through that. So there's my learn for this week. Now we're going to talk a little about leadership. And I'm really turning this over to the two of you. We've already gotten so many great ideas. I feel like we've certainly checked this box before earlier here in the conversation. But Danny, if to impart something about kind of your leadership style or some things that you try to do practically or just keep in mind. Yeah, when you think about leadership, talk a little bit to your approach.
So I've been a principal for over 8 years. I was an assistant first. I felt like that was a really good segue into my principalship because it taught me that relationships are extremely important. And how you build those relationships is extremely even more important. So one thing about that is more so not even just relationship with teachers, but relationships with kids. And so one thing that I do that I just wanted to share, I'm pretty passionate about running. It's the way I make myself feel better. It's a challenge for me. And so when I started here, I think it was my second year. I don't think I did it my first year. I started a running club. And so every Thursday after school, if you're in 3rd through 6th grade, you can sign up for running club. And we meet in the gym and we track our miles. We have a 1 mile route. And so we go out for a 1 mile run on Thursdays after school. And I keep that spot like it's a sacred spot on my calendar. I try my hardest to avoid any meetings because when I'm not there, the kids can't run and they get super disappointed. And so that's just one way for them to know like about me and what I love to do. And so I think not only connecting and building those relationships with your kids in school, giving them ideas on what you like to do outside of school can be a great piece of advice. If you're a reader, have a book club. If you are a knitter, teach them how to knit. I mean, there's lots of things you can do that you don't get to do in school that I think makes the relationship stronger. I try really hard to always be visible. I think being visible in the classroom without my computer shows the kids that I want to see what they're learning. And it also shows the teachers that I'm not just there to be evaluative. I want to know what's going on in your classroom. And so I've kind of tried to hang my hat on just making sure I build those relationships on a personal level and professional level because I think it's so important. I think it creates the family culture that we have at Bellwood Elementary. It creates the trust. It creates just the smiles and the I got your back no matter what atmosphere that I try to strive for at Bellwood.
Makes people want to run through a brick wall, right? For you is what, or at least that's what Brooke tells us is the message about Bellwood. And that's in no small part to your leadership there. And as a former cross country coach myself, I can really get on board with that whole after school running club too. That's awesome that you're doing that.
It's so funny. Even the kids that never, you would never think they'd run, they come because they want something to do after school till 4:00. And it's great. And I have parents that come help sometimes when they can. They get to bring their phones and listen to music, and the community knows we're out and about because we run the same route. And so it's just something I love to do. And they love to do it too, even though some of them are like, I don't even like to run, but I just like to go. And I try to push them. Like, you can walk a little bit, but try to, if you're talking to your friend, you can probably run a little bit harder. So.
There's something, just beautiful about that. I really appreciate learning about that. So, thanks for leading in that way and with that heart for sure. Tammy, what's a leadership piece that you'd like to impart?
I don't know. I guess just kind of that lead from within. I think we talk about leading from the front, leading from the back, but probably just more leading from within. Kind of like Danny said, the more you can get people on board with what you're doing and invest in them will move you further. You know, they're the people you work with, but more importantly, they're the people that you can rely on. So by investing in the people around you, your leadership is so much easier. And, you know, I know Danny and I have talked mountains of times about, you know, just staff motivation and trying to keep everybody moving in the same direction and the little things we can do to boost morale. Parent teachers conference this week, it was long on Monday. You know, it's Friday. We're still here teaching. Staff are tired. So you throw in a free Gene Day and some food, and it's amazing how everybody's smiling on a Friday after a very long Monday. So just trying to always walk beside them, recognize maybe what their mountain and challenges are, and figuring out ways that you can kind of climb it together instead of just leaving it up to them. I also think leadership has to start at a very, very young age, which is why we kind of started that leadership class in grade 6 that I go in and teach. So the kids see me in a different light instead of the principal. You know, I'm in there talking to them about class topics and objectives and assignments, you know, that we want to do to become better leaders, and just trying to start those conversations at a young age and build upon them. Now we kind of moved it up, and there's a 7th grade class that they can kind of move into that kind of builds on some of the same leadership, goal setting, you know, really getting your focus on later in life than what you are doing just today and now. So I think that's just my kind of leadership philosophy is always putting yourself in the right place at the right time. And that visibility piece is part of that. But being one of them and accepting the challenges with them.
Gosh, I love that. And I love that you sort of like paired that with what Danny shared about the after school running club. It's like we all have things that are authentic to who we are. And I guess like choked up talking about it, and like how we like connect with students. And so like leaning into that and like making space for that is just so important. And Tammy, I'm going to ask, because you did mention like the potential that leadership group had for doing things out in the community. What does that look like? Do you have an example of just something that maybe that class, whether it's been this school year or prior year, where you got a chance to maybe do some of that work outside of your building?
Yeah, so we usually help organize like a leadership or like a cleanup day in the community. So they're out cleaning up around where we take different parts of the town, and the kids go out. They even work with assigning places to lower elementary kids. We go to the nursing home and assisted living and do different things. One of the favorite activities that they love to do there is around Christmas time, we'll go down and we'll carry in all of the staff and residents Christmas decorations. And then we divide up and they go into different areas of the assisted living places, and they help the residents decorate. So they're putting up the Christmas trees and, you know, changing out decorations and learning you have to be careful with certain things because it's class and you can't drop it. But those are some of their favorites. They love anytime we can go out in the community is a great thing. We went to a leadership conference out in Kearney a couple years ago that had some guest speakers and things like that. So I took a group of the 6th graders out there and just tried to, you know, get them to invest in some bigger things. But we found a few places around the community that really like to, they'll call us and say, I got this going on. Would your leadership class be able to come help? Or is this something that they'd be interested in? So they would go outside of the school every opportunity I would give them. Unfortunately, they have to learn some of the things in class before we can pop out to the community. So it's kind of that hook and sinker with them. They have to learn those traits before we can go out and practice them. So.
Gosh, and the servant leadership approach that I just heard is a thread through all of that, right? Just like out there to, really help other people and just love the vision for that and love learning about it. And so thank you both for taking a little bit of time here on what I'm sure is a busy end to a long week. But I do think that this space is important for us to have where we're able to celebrate the good work that's going on, build up that work, and promote not just only the two of you, but your staff and the students that you serve, and those great things that are going on in your buildings. And and sharing ideas out. I've gotten feedback. We said this before we started, but I've gotten some feedback from other administrators who watched this after the fact, who said, I appreciate stealing this idea and taking that idea, and hopeful that we can continue to do this for the rest of the semester here. And so thanks for sharing today and taking a little time to invest in that.
Thanks
Thank you,
for having
Andrew.
us.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And we'll be back this same time, 10 a.m. next week, with some more administrators, building level leaders from around our state. And so thanks, and we'll see you all then.